everyone, my name's Christy. Welcome to my corner. Thank you so much for joining me on this Flosstube Friday, and it's actually Friday for Flosstube number 56. It's so great to have you here. I have a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm in a new corner. This is a new corner of my new art/craft studio that I have been working on for the past couple weeks, and it's not, I basically quickly threw something up behind me because it was a very empty white pegboard with a blue wall that I match today, apparently. But if you were to look behind you, it would not. It's not terrible, and I have made things in here, which I'll show you, but it's definitely not photogenic. So when it's all organized and photogenic, then I will give you a little tour. I'll do a little video tour of my craft space, and I do have more things I want to put up here. I have cards from people and pictures and stuff like that just to make this more pretty. But as I was putting things on here, I was shocked at how much fit on here when it was in my other space. But before we get to all of that stuff, because apparently I'm just going to start talking, I want to welcome my new subscribers. Thank you all so much for joining me on my artistic and crafty adventures, and welcome back to everyone who has been here hanging out with me for however long you've been hanging out with me. It has been so great to get to know you in the comments here on YouTube and also on Instagram. And if you are not following me on Instagram, you can find me at Dr_Christy. I'll put that right here. And that's where I post pictures of my everyday stitching. I post kind of sneak peeks of this space. I post, I don't know, pictures of my dog. If I bake anything, I throw it up there. Just my daily activities. I post 1 or 2 pictures a day. I throw a couple things in my stories every once in a while, so I won't spam you. But yeah, it's kind of a place where I talk about what I'm doing more regularly. So if you're not following there and you want to see what I'm doing more regularly, you can find me at Dr_Christy. And this is the channel about embroidery and cross stitch and other textile crafts and baking, although not lately, and history and the history of all of those things. So if any of that is interesting to you and you are not subscribed, I'd love to have you subscribe and stick around. Today's an exciting day. It is October 1st and it is pattern release day. I've already released my 2 temperature patterns, and that is my bookshelf temperature pattern for 2022, which looks like this, and it's the cross stitch version. And also my temperature drink shelf, which looks like this, and was inspired by Chevis of Chevrel's stuff and my mom, Diva S on Instagram, who has the Flame and Fiber podcast, because they both like a good cocktail. And so these 2 are already out as of the filming of this video. The other 2, which are my Purple Murple, which is this, and my Thornback patterns, I will be posting after I film this video. So I'm not 100% sure that they'll be up before this video goes live, but I'm pretty sure that they will. So I do have a couple of fully finished objects to show you today. And if you are on Instagram, you've already seen them. But first, I have my Purple Murple eye pillow. This I made into one of those kind of heat lavender, smells really good, eye pillows. I used the lavender that was in a sachet from that gorgeous wedding gift that I got, that I showed you last week with the textiles that my Italian cousin sent me. This is a picture of what the box looked like inside, and also I did kind of an artsy picture of the whole thing, and this is what that artsy picture was. You can kind of see the layout of all of the fun textiles that I got, because they're gorgeous. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them because they're almost too nice for me and my lifestyle. I think I might put the crocheted one. I have a red couch, a very red couch right here, and I might lay it on the back of that. Maybe not. We'll see. But anyway, regardless, irrelevant, I finished my Purple Murple eye pillow, and I actually used it. So that is fun. And I was doing a giveaway of this pattern, well, all my patterns. So what I'm going to do is, as I show you my finished objects, I'm going to do a drawing for the giveaway. So I asked you to say Murple if you wanted, I'm sorry, I can't. I asked you to say Murple if you wanted this pattern. I have a comment picker right here, so let me do that real quick. 9 of you used the word Murple in your comment, and the winner is Nurse Lolly, Laura, Polly. So Laura, if you want to get a hold of me, you can contact me either by email at Christy's Corner Craft. I'll put it right here at gmail.com, or you can ping me on Instagram, DM me on Instagram, and I will get those files out to you. And you'll be getting the purple colorway and also this alternate colorway in both printable and Pattern Keeper compatible. So you'll be getting, I think, 3 files, essentially, 3 PDFs, unless you really don't want one of them, in which case I'll give you whatever you want, but you'll get at most 3 PDFs. So congratulations, and I really hope you enjoy stitching it. And if/when you do stitch it, please, tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see someone else stitching this stuff. My second fully finished object is my Thornback pillowcase. And I finished this with a kind of black pinstripe and little velvet tassels. And I really wanted a chunky tassel. I love me a chunky tassel. So I bought, and this is part of haul, but I bought myself some, like a ton of black velvet yarn. I don't know what I'm going to be doing with this. I may end up with lots of fully finished objects with black pom-poms, or, ooh, I could do like a spooky Halloween pom-pom. I'm not going to. I could do a spooky Halloween pom-pom garland for something. I probably won't because I don't have time and I'm not decorating for Halloween, but I have lots of velvet ribbon in order to get these sort of chunky pom-poms. And this is my Thornback pattern, and I talked about Thornback last week and why I decided to kind of chart this. And it was kind of an homage to my days before getting married at the age of 41. And on the back, it just is like a pillowcase. It's not a full pillow. If you want to see it filled, this is what it looks like filled on one of my fancy kitchen chairs that I have in here. Actually, I'm sitting on one of them. Oh, and I forgot to say, sorry, backtracking. I did end up using this purple fabric, and it's perfect, and I'm really pleased with it. Thank you all for letting me talk through that with you last week. Anyway, back to the Thornback. I love this for a couple reasons. I love it because at first it looks like just a normal definition, and then you get kind of the fun definition. And I also love it because I did a little thorny vine going around the Thornback just for a little bit of interest, and that makes me happy too. So this is fully finished, and this is this pattern was inspired by a viral tweet, and I'm sending it to the woman who tweeted it, and so that's going to go out eventually. I've already contacted her and gotten her address, and so when I get to the mail, who knows when that will be, probably when my thank you cards for my wedding will go out, and thank you packages. So if you're waiting on a thank you card or a thank you package, I'm getting there. It's been a difficult couple weeks. I can explain that later. We can do a life update later. I'm also giving out this pattern, so we'll put this right here. 18 of you said Thornback. I have to be honest, I was so worried. Well, I wasn't worried because I chart things that I want to stitch. And I put them up on my Etsy shop for other people if they want to stitch them too. But my reason for charting them is so that I can stitch them. So even if no one wanted this, I still would have enjoyed stitching it, and I'm going to enjoy sending it out to the woman who tweeted it in the first place, right? So I do this for me, and then I share it with you. That's kind of how I go about this. But I am so excited that so many of you like embraced the word Thornback, like so excited, because I was really afraid after the so-so reception when I posted it on Instagram the first time. I was worried that people would be offended, or that people would think that I was like, it was a dig on them or whatever. And I'm so glad that like you embraced this, and it just makes me really happy. And so the fact that 18 of you want to stitch this makes me so happy. So thank you so much. I love that so much. So let's pick who it is. And the winner is Terry Hall. Congratulations, Terry. Thank you so much for entering, and I will send this to you. Just get a hold of me on, like I said, Instagram or my email, which I always have my email down below. So you'll find it down below, or you can find me on Instagram and I will get that pattern out to you. And you will get a printable PDF and also a Pattern Keeper compatible PDF. My other fully finished object, which, you know, it's an object that I made, is this project bag. I made a book project bag, which is very much like the project bag that I use for my temperature library pattern. I made this for the auction on Instagram that is ending very soon, that I mentioned last week. It came quicker than I anticipated. After I posted that video, Michelle messaged me and was like, can we do it this week? And I said, yep, let me make a bag and we'll do it. And so this is what I am auctioning off, and I'm really excited to do it. I'm excited to be a part of such a great fundraiser for a very worthy cause, and the cause is missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit folks. And women, girls, Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit folks in the United States, and I think also in Canada, are much more likely to be murdered or go missing or be sexually assaulted than any other group of people in the United States. And I think it's also true in Canada. And law enforcement doesn't always treat it as importantly. And so we have all these women who are they're just gone. So they're raising money for a charity that does awareness and does other kinds of outreach for this issue. And I'll put their name down here because it escapes me at the moment. But anyway, so I donated this. I donated my temperature library chart. I donated all the skeins of floss and some other things and a bag. And so my fully finished object is this bag. And it's raising money, and that's really exciting to me. Let's do the giveaway for the book pattern, which I'll just pull it out since it's here. So I have my temperature library 2 pattern, and the word was book, and 26 people used the word book. So let's see who wins a temperature library 2 pattern. And the winner is Cindy Jenkins. So Cindy, get a hold of me again on Instagram or my email address, and get me your email address and I will send you a pattern. Again, it comes in a printable version and in a PDF version. And the final giveaway is my temperature drink shelf pattern, which looks like this. And this is the one that was inspired by Chevis and my mom. And there are 14 people who used drink as their term. And the winner is Beck Aline. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Beck, please get a hold of me, Instagram or my email address, and you will get a copy of the temperature drinks pattern in a printable and PDF, PDF and a Pattern Keeper compatible PDF. So thank you all so much for all your kind words last week. I'm really excited that you're also excited about these patterns. Like I said, I'm planning on stitching the temperature drink shelf as a cross stitch as charted. So that's kind of my cross stitch of the year, essentially. But I am stitching the temperature bookcase as an embroidery that I'll talk more about probably in November, because I think it's going to take me a while to organize it. It's going to be part of my 365 stitch project, which basically means that I'm going to fill each book in a different stitch. And I need to do research on what stitches I want to use based on both the Royal School of Needlework Stitch Bank that just released last week. And then also my new and vintage stitching books that I have been gifted by wonderful people. So that's going to take me a little bit of time, but it should all be ready. I'm hoping I can get it done in October. That would be nice, and get you some idea of what's happening with that in November. And as I said last week, I do plan on having a Google Doc where I actually have a pre-organized list of all of the things of all of the different stitches I'm going to use. And I will release the embroidery version at the same time. So that kind of brings me to my whips. I have 2 whips. Both of them are stitching, different kinds of stitching. So my first whip is my temperature library that I'm doing in embroidery. And I'm doing this in all the called for DMC, and I'm doing it, this is the embroidery version, and I'm doing it in satin stitch. I will release the 2022 version of the embroidery, the 22 embroidery version of the temperature pattern when I have planned it all out, because that's also going to take some time. But I'm really pleased. I worked a bit on the shelves some more, and I got a bit more done in the books, although I'm not caught up yet, that's for sure. I work on this on Sundays with my mom, and I hope to fill in all the rest of the books when I meet with her on Zoom. Meet on Zoom on Sunday, which is in 2 days. So that is what I have been working on. I have been working on that, and I keep that in my book bag on my little floss card. So there you go. That is my temperature library that I'm currently working on. The other thing I decided to pull out this week, because I felt a little bit adrift this week. I didn't have any started embroideries, like any started new embroideries. I didn't want to start a new cross stitch, and I didn't have a ton of time to stitch because I had to finalize the patterns, fully finish those 2 things, make that bag, you know, kit up the temperature library for the auction. I didn't have a lot of time. So I ended up working on my Lindy Stitches Hedgehog House quilt. This is basically what it's going to look like. This is what it looks like pieced out, or kind of like laid out. And I am hand stitching it because I want to just do it as a relaxing kind of a thing. And this is the very top. I went in the wrong order. Even though they're numbered, you'd think that I would be able to do it correctly. I didn't. So I did the top. So yeah, I sewed these together as well. That's the extent of my works in progress today. I do have haul and plans. Not a lot of haul, not a lot of plans. Well, decent plans. One thing that I said I wanted to have started for today is my Hildegard of Bingen. I want to do a new Hildegard of Bingen cosmic egg. I had really planned on having some part of that started or sketched out today, and I just don't. So I'm going to have to work on that tomorrow. It will be started on October 2nd instead of October 1st, which sucks because I kind of really wanted it to start on the 1st because I started the last one on the 1st. Maybe I just need to like cut out the fabric. If I cut out the fabric, that counts, right? No, that just means it's kitted up. I'll just do it tomorrow and it's fine. But it was like an alarm in my camera, and my phone. It was on my schedule. I put it in my calendar. So that is definitely a plan for the weekend. That's a plan for the weekend. Another plan is I want to continue working on this space. It's actually coming along really nicely. I love working in here. I love how bright it is. I just love how it feels. I need to hook up some stuff and organize some stuff and paint more things and kind of reorganize it. I think it's going to take me a while as I use the space to kind of organize it how I want. But I think that's just going to take time, and that's okay. Like as I use it, I'll know that I need to put things here, right? That's kind of the thing. Another one of my plans that I had mentioned before last week is I had bought this colander. And my plan is to cross stitch on this colander because it has holes, and you can cross stitch and embroider on anything that has holes. So there is a slight issue, and that issue is that the holes in this are offset. So they're not in line with each other, which makes me think that it needs to, well, I need to figure out how I can stitch on this and have it look good, even though the things are a little bit off center. So what I thought was that I need to do a kind of, it can't be like a precise cross stitch if that, I know it's kind of an oxymoron because cross stitch is by definition precise, but like it can't be, like it needs to be like an impressionist something or a watercolor something, right? Like an image that is more amorphous. Does that make sense? And so as part of my haul this week, I bought the, what's it called? And I'll link this down below. The Mini Masterpieces Cross Stitch Patterns book. And essentially it is 50 mini paintings that are made into cross stitch. And I first saw this on Kaylee Cross Stitches live. And I think she's doing a Van Gogh November. I don't know why she didn't go for Van Goghvember, but then I realized that that only really works in the United States because otherwise it'd be Van Goghvember, and that makes no sense. So anyway, back to this. I bought this PDF cross stitch pattern booklet from Etsy. I'll put a link down below. And I've decided that I'm going to stitch the poppy fields of the poppy field near Argenteuil by Claude Monet. And this is a picture of what it looks like, what the pattern looks like. And the reason why I picked this is, first of all, I love the colors. I think the colors will look really nice in here. The color palette in here is red and teal and yellow and white. And I also got it because Argenteuil, this is going to sound silly, but my research is on medieval court cases in Paris. And Argenteuil is now it's a suburb of Paris, but it was in the Middle Ages a village in the outskirts of Paris. And one of my favorite cases occurred there. Well, why don't I just tell you about it? So essentially I look at marriage cases in the Middle Ages. And and I'll talk about this later with the book, but I look at cases where I look at two different kinds of cases. I look at cases where men and women disagree on whether they're married or not. And that's a whole other story, but basically you could get married in secret, basically. And so some of the cases are a man and woman disagreeing on whether they're married and one of them taking the other to court. And the other one is men and women who are married, a married couple wanting to separate their households because they hate each other, essentially, and one of them bringing the other to court. So in this case, we have two people. We have Johanna, which would be Jean in French, and Giotto, which is in Latin, which would be Guy in French. And basically, Guy is taking Jean to court, saying that they had a marriage contract. And Jean is saying that that wasn't the case. And so she tells a story that she and Guy were walking down the street in Argenteuil, and Guy's friends jumped out of the bushes and drew their swords, pushed her to the ground, and forced her to agree to marry him. And so she did, because they had drawn swords, and Guy was like, haha, we are engaged. And she leapt up and was like, no, I don't want to marry you. I have no intention of marrying you. And then I don't know what happened after that. There's no saying what happened after that. But they get into court. She tells the story, and Guy's like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it happened. And the courts were like, you can't do that. You're not engaged. You have no marriage contract. Sorry, you got to consent. So be on your way and don't do that again. And by the way, you have a fine. So that's the other reason. That's my favorite case. It's the only one with that kind of violence in it, but it is such a ridiculous kind of a thing. And the court cases, I mean, I'm sure for Jean, it was terrifying at the time, right? And in fact, she says in her testimony that she agreed pro terrore, right? In terror, right? In fear. So for her, it was very terrifying, but she's telling this in court, and Guy's just like, yeah, that's what happened. As if he didn't know that was not okay. I mean, obviously he knew that was okay. She knew that was not okay. This is part of my book. But anyway, this is my favorite case. It takes place in Argenteuil, and that's what I'm going to stitch. That's what I want to stitch on this for color and historical reasons. That was a long explanation for this. So that was part of my haul. I also got 2 roller frames. One of them, I think one of them is for Hildegard because she's a big girl. And the other one I don't know, but I got them because they were each $5. They were on clearance. And I'm like, I might as well just, and I had a $5 voucher. I'm like, well, I'm just going to get them both. I also got, just for fun, fabric pastels, pastel dye kits. Pastel dye sticks. I got these on Amazon. I'll post a link down below where I got them. I saw someone on Instagram using them and they looked really fun. So I thought I would try them just for fun, you know, as part of experiments. And I'll film it for you if anyone's interested in seeing how these guys work. I'm thinking it's kind of like, I'm not sure if it's like crayons or if you wet it, if it's like watercolor pastels, but you iron it and it's permanent. So I thought that would be super fun. That is all I kind of got in the store, but then I did a little eBaying because I mentioned last week that I was starting a new collection. And that collection was antique or vintage sewing kits, in particular using this Corticelli silk thread. And so I got a bunch of them and I love them, and I brought a couple here to show you. I will do like a tour sometime later when I need like a quick video, honestly. But I wanted to show you kind of some really cute one. This isn't my favorite one. I'm saving my favorite one for another day. But it's in a little box and it has scissors. They don't all have scissors. In fact, most of them don't have scissors. But it has scissors and all the thread, and I love it so much. And I love like this flesh colored thread, right? Oh, and this one even has a needle still in it. I love this flesh colored thread because I know that that was used, and this too was used to darn stockings. And I just love, I love the idea that I know exactly why a woman bought this and why she used it and in the past, and that just makes me really happy. So I bought this one, and then I also got one, and this was my first bidding war win. I'm really excited. And this is another sewing kit, but this one comes in the original box. And one thing I didn't mention in my video about the Corticelli silks, which I'll link to over here. I'm not sure in here where it goes. I think it goes right here. One thing I didn't mention is that the Corticelli like phrase was that they don't knot, I think it was. It doesn't say. They don't knot or they don't break. And the way they showed that was having a kitten playing with their silk. That's how they showed how strong and good it was. And they had a neon sign. It was like one of the first neon signs on in New York, Times Square in New York, was like the Corticelli kitten playing with yarn. And that's the thing. Anyway, so I was super excited that I got this box because I love this box. But it has all this silk in it and a thimble and needles. The needles are very, oh, what are the needles? Superior Best Steel Sewing Needles from Czechoslovakia, which doesn't exist anymore. And they're lovely and I love them. And I'm so happy I got this, but I swooped in the last minute and got this one. I've lost several bidding wars since then, but that one is exciting to me. That is all of my stitching content for today. I have not gotten much stitching done, and if you notice, I feel like I'm blinking a lot. You probably haven't noticed because of the glare and my glasses, but I ended up having a little bit of an eye infection this week. This is a lot of information that you probably don't need, but it's to explain why I haven't done much stitching, and also why I don't have much of a book update this week, because I've been having trouble seeing out of my right eye and it's been kind of blurry and bothering me. So I have gotten some done. I showed you my stitching. I have gotten some reading done, but that along with some other things happening. We had a major interview for a kind of a critical position for my department this week. So I had to be a part of all those interviews. And we also have one of our trees, our giant oak tree right here. It has worms and it needs to come down. And so I've been kind of dealing with that all week too, along with making things. And, you know, it was a lot of sewing this week. This is kind of a sewing week and a prepping week and a designing week. So I don't have much stitching to show, I'm sorry. And I don't have much book update to show. But that is all my stitching content. I do have a small book update, and I learned something really interesting from one of my readings this week. For those of you who are new, I am a medieval historian, and I am writing a book on women's access to justice in the Middle Ages, which is where my court case comes from that I talked about earlier. I am writing a book, and I did record a video about that book, which I think will pop up here. And if you want to know more about the topic or what my actual research is or anything like that, and why I'm talking about it in my Flosstube, you can find it at that video. If you are not interested in learning about my book, then thank you so much for joining me on for my stitching update, and I will see you probably in a couple weeks, because I'm trying to film Flosstubes every fortnight, and then do other videos in between. So those of you who would like to stay, like I said, have a small book update. I read, I think, 4 articles, but I also I read 4 articles that I took notes on that I'm going to use, but I also kind of skimmed through multiple books and articles in various languages, so they took longer, that I'm not using. And so I eliminated some, which is also good. And I do have an interesting fact that I wanted to talk about, but I left the book in the other house. So I'm going to insert a video or a discussion here, a voiceover here, talking about what I discovered, and then I'll be back to say goodbye. In an article by James Brundage, who is an expert on medieval canon law and marriage, that's medieval church law and marriage, in an article called E Pluribus Unum, Custom, the Professionalization of Medieval Law and Regional Variations in Marriage Formation, which sounds really boring but is actually quite interesting. He tells us that a guy named Bartholomew of Brescia, who died in 1258, who glossed, which was wrote comments on the side of a law book, wrote, "When in Rome, live as the Romans do. When you live elsewhere, do as they do." And this was originally coined by St. Augustine or St. Ambrose back in the 5th century. But the thing that I love about this is that I have heard the phrase, "when in Rome, do as the Romans do," and I always assumed it was the Roman Empire, but it turns out in this case it was the Roman Church. And what this whole book is about, this is a chapter in a book, and what this whole book is about is it's looking at the different variations in canon law throughout medieval Christendom. We have this idea that the medieval church was this all-encompassing, autocratic kind of an institution, when in fact it was a very splintered institution that had all sorts of different kinds of belief structures and ideas about different rituals and different celebrations that the Pope was kind of in some ways trying to unify, but in some ways he wasn't even trying to unify because it didn't really matter to him. So there were some things that really mattered to the Pope and to the Roman Church, things like who was allowed to create bishops. But in other cases, like local festivals, the Pope didn't really care so much. And so when in Rome, live as the Romans do, came to be about regional differences and accepting regional differences in the medieval Roman Church. So I thought that was really neat. I've heard "when in Rome" so many times, and I love it. And I don't know. I just thought that would be an interesting little factoid that you could take away with you, for parties. And don't do it. Don't use that little factoid for parties. I say this to my students. I give them a ridiculous factoid. I'm like, yeah, you can go use that at parties. And they're like, okay, Dr. D. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. And I appreciate chatting with you in the comments every week and chatting on Instagram. I don't know. I appreciate your company, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. I will see you next week. I think I'm going to do a history video next week. I really want to talk about bestiaries. I finished that Bee and Bear, and now I'm like, I want to talk about I want to do like a little research on bestiaries and do a quick video on bestiaries. So I may, which are medieval animal books. So I may do that. I will have a video next week. It will not be a floss tube, and then I'll have a floss tube in 2 weeks. So with all that being said, thank you so much for joining me. Please take good care of yourselves and have a good one. Bye.